While I'm not an expert in rap music by any means, Japan's history with the music genre goes almost as far back as it does in America. While rap music dates back to the 1970s in the United States, it's the early 1980s when it was brought to Japan. This was supposedly by Toshio Nakanishi or Hiroshi Fujiwara, or maybe both simultaneously. That's really up for debate. Anyways, J-rap, or Japanese hip-hop, or Japanese rap, began to flourish in underground scenes and take on a unique identity. It was in the year 1997 when J-rap was in full swing and a mysterious rapper entered the scene. The rapper was known as Nipponia Nippon, or at least that was their stage name. What else do we know about Nipponia Nippon? Well, nothing. This artist produced 2 tracks on one single, both made available on this record, which is a very limited underground release. The tracks themselves are fire, but the lyrics themselves are very cryptic and have led many to speculate if there's any deeper meaning behind them. There's a great deal of mystery surrounding this record, so much mystery in fact that it's become a somewhat popular internet mystery on the Japanese internet. Specifically, Futaba Channel or Nichan or 2chan, I really gotta figure out a name to continue calling this webpage. For years, people have attempted to find out more information on the mysterious artist behind this record, from the details of the recording and the tracks themselves to the current whereabouts of the artist and if they are even still among the living. The mystery behind this talented artist, someone with a very brief and short-lived career, if you could even call it that, is what we will be exploring today. So let's go ahead and explore the mystery of Nipponia Nippon, the most mysterious rapper of Japan. Nipponia Nippon was a rapper that released one self-titled album in 1997. There are 2 known formats for this record, the more common being the LP/EP release, and the other one being a CD release, which I personally cannot find any photographs of online. The more rare of the 2 releases is definitely that CD release. Though it is worth noting that both of these releases are pretty hard to come by, and that's understandable considering the underground scene of the time, as well as we don't really know how many of these records were produced and sold. As I mentioned in my introduction, the J-rap scene of Japan gathered its own identity from how hip-hop and rap music was seen in the rest of the world. It is, in my opinion, that Japanese culture can have the tendency to add a sense of melancholy into its music, regardless of if a certain genre originated from another country and holds a different cultural significance there. And what about this underground scene? What was it like? Well, according to my own personal research, it wasn't a very happy place. It was pretty bleak, distressing even. Japanese hip-hop is a prominent example of this, in my opinion, as the underground J-rap scene of the late 90s was filled with a lot of dark themes and music that was somewhat of an outlet to those who made use of those dark themes. It was an experience shared on one of the 2chan posts that I found discussing Nipponia Nippon that stuck with me a lot regarding this. A poster recalled purchasing an album of an underground rapper in the late 1990s. This album included a link to a webpage, or to my knowledge, some way to access a specific webpage. The webpage ended up containing the suicide letter of the rapper on that album. It is also worth noting that, unlike the Akiba tape, this song was available online in some form of another since its release. This is something I cannot definitively confirm, though this did have a release in the late 90s and the internet was kind of picking up speed and gaining traction at this point, so I do find this believable. But regardless of this, the mystery and intrigue of this record did not come about with its initial upload and release. Rather, it came about much later. And by much later, I mean as early as 2008 and then later on in 2011 and 2013. At least these are the most prominent examples of posts and discussion regarding Nipponia Nippon that I can find. It may be a more broader and far-reaching understanding of the J-rap scene online, where Nipponia Nippon eventually gained traction and their music was recognized and discussed. This was unfortunately much after the fact, when Nipponia Nippon was no longer a new name on the scene, and now just another rapper that went under the radar. So, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling here and get back to the record in question. This was a record that went under the radar, as I said, and was only sold for 100 yen when it was initially released in that underground scene. Keep in mind, this is only about $1 in US dollars. Actually, a little less than that. This record has a really interesting background that adds to the elusiveness of the rapper themselves, the music, and the overall mystery, so let's go ahead and explore that, shall we? So the record is technically an EP. The first track is an instrumental introduction. It's about 1.5 minutes in length and features no lyrics, though honestly it is a vibe. Then we have the next track being one of only 2 tracks with actual lyrics in them. This track is called Yogoretachi, which translates to bad blood or dirty blood. Let me just quickly preface this by saying that J-rap lyrics are among the most difficult things in general that I have ever tried to interpret in Japanese. They're very cryptic, a lot of play on words that I've never heard before, and I have asked for multiple people's opinions on this just to make sure what I'm reading is as confusing as I think it is, which to other people it is, yes. But to my knowledge, this song has a lot of themes of self-hatred as well as blood being contaminated or unclean. There is also some kind of hatred towards what I believe to be the medical system or doctors. The only way for me to accurately depict the subject matter is to just read a translation of the lyrics, so I'll go ahead and provide some of that. Sick blood that started to become neglected over time. They keep coming one after another, more masks, looking to profit. Facing a drawing of blood that remains unsolved. The injection needle pushed into the scar in the arm. The reflection of a bleak face in the back window. Next track, the second of the 2 with actual lyrics, is Namakemono, which translates to pretty much a lazy person or somebody who is lazy. So this one is equally dark and equally cryptic. It does involve the struggles of someone not being useful or helpful to society and wanting to change that, but can't become helpful because of the general stigma of being lazy. At least that's how I interpreted the lyrics. I personally feel like this one may be an allegory for depression. While the meaning isn't confirmed, it's definitely bleak and desperate in its subject matter. Here's some of the lyrics. I want to get out of here already, a lazy person who dozed off at the root of the sun. I want to strongly take a step forward. At the start, I'll light my Zippo and bury the controversy. I want to strongly take a step forward. Every time, I shamefully do nothing and end up right where I started. Following this are technically 2 more tracks, one being an instrumental version of Yogoretachi, and the next one being an outro that is also instrumental. While there is only 2 tracks with lyrics on this album, there's definitely a lot to unpack here, and honestly, following the subject matter of these 2 tracks with vocals, the outro almost feels unsettling and anxious. It's definitely something that makes you feel emotions that aren't exactly happy, and I have a hunch that is what the artist intended. Aside from the lyrics, we also have information provided on the album EP record itself. Here are some images of the vinyl release. Due to its small distribution, it doesn't have full cover art. Instead, it simply includes a little sheet with the information that one would typically associate with something on an album cover. Anyways, the record itself has this same information printed onto it. We've already went through the tracks, and the year of release was already established earlier in the video, but there are 2 other pieces of information that are provided. Information that reads 1997 Vibe Music and produced by Far. Vibe Vibe Music is actually a fairly well-known hip-hop record label. Not incredibly well-known, unlike their parent label, Ultra Vibe, but they do have an extensive catalog of releases and are still around today, their latest release being in 2020. Vibe Music was established in 1995, and this was only 2 years before Nipponia Nippon's album was released. With that considered, Vibe Music definitely wasn't as established as they are today. They were very much a new name and likely worked with a lot of new names in the scene and not more prominent musical artists. The producer of this record, named here as Far, can easily be found online when looking into the album on Discogs. He's worked on a significant amount of projects from a variety of different genres and record labels. It's also interesting to note that his music credits began around 1997 to 1998 at the very least. That's how far back his credits go on Discogs. And again, with that release of the Nipponia Nippon EP in 1997, this was a very early work of Far's. As far as I can tell, the pun not intended, Far/Com began working in the industry around 1997 and 1998, and this is according to Discogs. So, working with Nipponia Nippon was a very early project of theirs. It could even be the earliest. Another big detail to note is that Far no longer goes by Far. The name this producer goes under most of the time is actually Com. His other aliases include Organ Language and his actual name, to my knowledge, that being Kyotaka Fukagawa. Far/Com is still active today. We'll get into that more in a second, actually. At this point, it's also worth noting that the catalog number is also featured on the record. This is important information, but not very important when considering that this album is not lost. See, if the song was lost or the song was unidentified and we didn't know the name of the artist at all, then this would be pretty important. Though, with this specific internet mystery, the catalog number is not that big a deal. While the search for this artist has technically been ongoing for about 10 to 12 years, it's not really that much of a search. This is unfortunately similar to the case of the Akiba tape and the search efforts in Japan, as there's more discussion regarding it and not much actual efforts in locating and finding what happened to this person. Really, everything provided online, or at least the majority of everything provided online, did that make sense? I don't know. Theories and discussion have taken place on 2chan threads. This popular one from 2011, as well as another from a little later in 2013. They're pretty long, but various discussion and theories have come about from them. Here's some theories that have come into play. This is unfortunately the most common theory. The lyrics of the tracks suggest a lot of themes of self-hatred and depression. I genuinely hope this is not the case, though. It is equally possible that Nipponia Nippon just gave up on their music career and decided to go about living as a normal person with a normal 9-to-5 job. The lyrics of Nipponia's tracks do suggest that he may have been homeless. This is not confirmed, much like anything else on the record. It's just all lyrics that are suggestive, but it is a theory that many have considered. Another pretty dark theory developed by listeners is that Nipponia Nippon was possibly suffering from AIDS or hepatitis B. This is primarily from the lyrics of the track Dirty Blood and also just empty speculation. There are, however, more positive ideas thrown around, however. Maybe Nipponia Nippon is still around and creating music. Maybe he just goes by a different name. The voice element is the reason why two rappers are suggested to be Nipponia Nippon, possibly, today. These rappers are Kimidori and Kurobi. These come from the 2chan threads and are mainly suggested because they sound similar to Nipponia Nippon, and really, the vocals are all we have to work off of. Again, these are all just theories. These are just comments and speculation by random commenters on image threads and blog posts. There's nothing substantial and nothing concrete that can really tell us what happened in Nipponia Nippon and where they are today. But next, we can get into what we know actually probably did happen. There are a few different blog posts that come up when trying to search up on this rapper. Most posts just kind of summarize the mystery or review the music itself, but there is one specific blog that went beyond this a little bit. This brings us back to Calm, or Far, the producer of the Nipponia Nippon EP. This blog, written by a Tokyo native user named Hagakure way back in 2008, details the writer's attempts at learning new info about Nipponia Nippon, specifically if Nipponia Nippon would be available to perform live. They were unable to find any information on the rapper online, so ultimately attempted to contact Far through his official webpage, and they were successful. Far did end up getting back to this blog writer, stating that there was no possibility of a live show happening, at least through Far/Com themselves accommodating it. Far would then go on to share a detail that both clarified and added mystery to this artist. See, apparently, during the recording of Dirty Blood, Nipponia Nippon disappeared. They left without any warning, and Far simply never heard from them again. The record was ultimately released following Nipponia's disappearance. Far also shared one other detail, and it's a little cryptic. That being the statement that is translated to roughly, the payment never being received. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, I am a little confused as to what payment directly translates to. I don't really have the ability, with my personal Japanese ability, to tell you what it means, though it is pretty vague to other people I've asked. But there are one of two outcomes as to what may have happened in regards to payment and what this could be suggesting. Nipponia did not pay Far some kind of fee that was owed, or Nipponia did not receive any payment or royalties for his work on the LP, as nobody was able to reach him following his sudden absence. Of course, the latter is more likely, though it's not 100% clear, so yeah. One theory I had personally regarding this EP is maybe there is some lost media involving it, that being a lost unreleased track, an unfinished track because of Nipponia's departure, or possibly some recording of a live performance that had taken place in the late 90s before the artist's departure. Though there is absolutely no proof that any lost media surrounding this album exists. Let me just make that clear. As far as we know, no such recordings or footage exists. Since we don't know what the artist actually looks like, we don't really have much to go off of. We don't know their actual name or anything about them as a person. All we really do have is what they sound like and the dark subject matter of their music, as well as their musical style. So, in recent years, there haven't been any new developments or any new groundbreaking details in the search for Nipponia Nippon. That one blog post did reveal a little bit of information regarding the person's whereabouts and the fact that they just, kind of dipped. But other than that, there's been nothing in recent years. No concrete info, but many are firm on the idea of suicide. This is not confirmed, let me just be clear here, but a lot of the information that is available to us does point to a more grim outcome. Now granted, we barely have any information at all. Basically, just the dark subject matter of his music and the information given by Far/Com in that blog post. Hopefully, this is not the case. Honestly, I'm not sure if this mystery will ever be resolved. There's a lot of speculation that goes with it, but very little to work with and come to a legitimate conclusion with. Again, I'm not an expert with hip hop or rap, but I can tell that a lot of emotion went into the writing of this music. It is very clear that this artist has talent and potential. It has now, however, been 25 years since the release of this LP, and the Nipponia Nippon of today may be a vastly different person than what he was and remembered as from his music. He may be the same passionate musician who just makes music under a different name or with different subject matter. Maybe he just doesn't want to be associated with the name Nipponia Nippon anymore. Regardless of what the reason is, I just hope he's doing well. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. I do have a few quick shoutouts though. Firstly, to the Twitter user Reindex. They're actually the person who uploaded the Akiba tape to YouTube and brought this mystery of Nipponia Nippon to my attention, so thank you. I also want to thank Kai Translations on Twitter, as they helped me a ton when it came to kind of figuring out what the 2chan threads were saying and some blog posts. And also huge shout out to Matt vs. Japan for helping me out with the lyrics a ton. I was very confused by a lot of the use of words in them, and he clarified a lot and helped me equally as much as the other people who helped me with clarifying the Japanese. So again, thank you very much. Also, thank you to anyone and everyone who watched part 1 of my Do Not Search Iceberg. I do have part 2 coming out really soon, so please guys, be patient with me. I know you really want to see it. I just want to make sure it's ready and a good video and all that junk. I'm working as fast as I can on it, so please, be patient. It'll be out soon, I promise. Anyways, that is all I have for today. I hope you guys like this little mystery. Hopefully this dude is doing well. And yeah, that's about it. Really hope for nothing but the best for Nipponia Nippon. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next video. And yeah, that's it. Bye, guys.